The deep blackness of space surrounded the USV horizon as it drifted beyond the Kuiper Belt. Captain Alan Winters looked out the main viewport at the endless stars. The ship had been on its mission for 3 years now, pushing farther into the unknown than any human vessel before it. "Captain, I'm picking up an unusual signal," said communications specialist Kevin Phillips. His fingers moved quickly across his console as he tried to isolate the transmission. Captain Winters turned from the viewport. "What kind of signal?" "Not sure yet, sir. It's not matching any known pattern in our database." Science Officer Lisa Green moved to Kevin's station, her eyes focused on the readings. "It's definitely artificial. Repeating pattern, complex structure. Someone made this." The crew of 12 exchanged glances. They all knew what this might mean. "First contact." "Put us on yellow alert," Captain Winters said. "Everyone stay calm. And remember your training. This is what we prepared for." For 6 hours, the crew worked to decode the strange signal. Lisa and Kevin barely left their stations, analyzing every detail. The rest of the crew went about their duties with extra care, checking systems and preparing for any situation. "Sir," Kevin called out suddenly, "I think we've got something. The signal shifted. I think it's responding to our scans." Before Captain Winters could reply, Security Chief Paul Davis pointed at the main screen. "Sir, look." A ship appeared in the distance. It was huge, at least 3 times the size of the horizon. Its metal skin gleamed oddly against the blackness of space, with strange curves and angles that seemed to shift as they watched. "All stop," ordered Captain Winters. "Hold position here." The alien vessel grew larger on their screens as it approached. Its surface showed no obvious weapons, but the crew of the horizon felt a growing unease. "Sir, they're hailing us," Kevin said. "I think I can patch it through." The screen flickered, showing a being unlike anything the humans had seen before. It had 6 limbs and skin that seemed to shine like metal. Its face had 3 large black eyes and no visible mouth. When it spoke, the sound came as a series of clicks and hums that the ship's computer struggled to translate. "Greetings, unknown vessel." The rough translation appeared on screen. "We are the Vorgath. We claim this space sector." Captain Winters straightened his uniform and spoke clearly. "I am Captain Alan Winters of the United Space Vessel Horizon, representing Earth and humanity. We come in peace and friendship." The alien's 3 eyes blinked in an odd pattern. "Prove friendship. Send leaders to our ship." The bridge crew exchanged concerned looks. Captain Winters called for a private meeting in the conference room. "I don't like this," Security Chief Paul Davis said immediately. "It could be a trap." Medical Officer Susan Miller nodded. "I agree with Paul. We know nothing about these beings. But this is our mission," Lisa reminded them. "First contact. Opening diplomatic relations with alien species. We can't turn back at the first opportunity we get." Captain Winters listened to everyone's concerns before making his decision. "I'll lead a small team over. Lisa, Paul, and Susan will come with me. The rest of you will stay here and monitor the situation. If anything goes wrong, your orders are to return to Earth with all the data we've collected." His second-in-command, Jack Bishop, protested. "Sir, I should go instead of you." "No, Jack. This is my responsibility." Captain Winters' tone left no room for argument. "Have the shuttle prepped and ready in 20 minutes." The small boarding team prepared carefully, checking their communication devices and bringing basic scientific equipment. Lisa could barely contain her excitement as they boarded the shuttle. "This is history in the making," she said as the shuttle detached from the horizon and moved toward the enormous alien vessel. The Vorgath ship opened a small port for their shuttle to enter. They landed in a vast chamber with walls that seemed to pulse with faint light. "Remember," Captain Winters said as they prepared to exit the shuttle, "we represent all of humanity now." The 4 humans stepped out into the alien ship. The air was breathable, but had a strange metallic taste. 3 Vorgath creatures waited for them, standing perfectly still. "Greetings," Captain Winters said. "We are honored to—" Without warning, one of the Vorgath raised what looked like an arm. A bright flash of energy erupted from it, striking Paul directly in the chest. He fell without a sound. "What are you doing?" Captain Winters shouted, reaching for Paul. Another flash hit Susan. Lisa screamed as the medical officer collapsed. On the horizon, the remaining crew watched in horror through the video feed from the captain's communication device. "Get them out of there," Jack shouted, but there was nothing they could do. The video feed showed Captain Winters backing up, trying to shield Lisa as she attempted to drag Susan back toward the shuttle. Two more flashes of energy, and both the captain and science officer dropped to the floor. "Launch rescue team now," Jack ordered. But before they could act, the Horizon sensors detected multiple energy signatures activating across the alien vessel. "They're powering weapons," shouted the sensor operator. The Vorgath ship fired without warning or mercy. The Horizon's shields collapsed under the barrage in seconds. Emergency alarms blared throughout the ship as systems failed. "Send the emergency transmission," Jack shouted as another hit rocked the ship. "Make sure Earth knows what happened here." The communications officer worked frantically, compiling all their data and the video of the massacre into one desperate transmission. The signal beamed out just as the final blast tore through the Horizon's core. The explosion lit up the darkness of deep space for a brief moment before fading away. In the silence that followed, the Vorgath ship released a small beacon. It began broadcasting a message toward Earth, a message claiming the solar system as Vorgath territory and demanding humanity's immediate surrender. The beacon also carried images of the 12 dead humans, their bodies arranged in a display that the Vorgath considered a warning. They expected fear. They expected submission. They did not understand humans at all. The transmission from the Horizon reached Earth 3 days later, and as the people of Earth watched the final moments of their explorers, something changed in the human spirit. Grief turned to rage. Fear hardened into resolve. The Vorgath had slaughtered 12 humans thinking it would terrify mankind into submission. Instead, they had just awakened a sleeping giant that would soon bring a vengeance beyond their comprehension. The emergency transmission from the USV Horizon reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning. At first, only a few government officials and military leaders watched the footage. By evening, the entire planet knew. Director William Harris of the United Earth Defense Council sat at the head of a long table. His face was gray with shock, but his voice remained steady as he addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are at war." The video played again on the large screen. Captain Alan Winters and his team murdered without warning. The Horizon destroyed with all hands. 12 humans dead. The Vorgath message demanding Earth's surrender followed, showing the bodies of the crew arranged in a grotesque display. "They expect us to give up without a fight," said General Samantha Powell, her hands clenched into fists. "They think we're weak." Around the table, military commanders from nations across the globe nodded, in agreement. Old rivalries were set aside in the face of this new threat. "What do we know about their capabilities?" asked Admiral John Ross. "Not much," replied Dr. Eric Johnson, the lead physicist pulled from his lab at MIT when the transmission arrived. "But the data package from the Horizon gives us some clues. Their weapons are energy-based, highly advanced. Their ship seems to use a power source unlike anything we've developed." General Powell leaned forward. "Can we fight them?" Dr. Johnson removed his glasses and rubbed his tired eyes. "With our current technology? No. They would destroy us." The room fell silent. On screens around the world, people watched the deaths of the Horizon crew over and over. Parents held their children closer. Students gathered in silent groups. Workers stopped to stare at public displays showing the faces of the 12 who died. "We need more information," said Director Harris finally. "We need to know exactly what we're facing." "I might have found something," Dr. Johnson said, pressing buttons on his tablet. A new image appeared on the screen, a complex graph of energy readings. The Horizon sensors picked this up. The Vorgath ships emit a unique radiation pattern when their weapons and engines are active. It's like a fingerprint. "Can we track it?" asked General Powell. "Better," Dr. Johnson replied. I think we can target it. Their power systems operate on principles that make them vulnerable to specific counter-frequencies. For the first time since the message arrived, a hint of hope entered the room. The meeting continued through the night. By morning, a plan was forming. Earth would not surrender. Earth would fight back. 2 weeks later, the first Vorgath scout ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They moved slowly with obvious confidence, expecting no resistance. They did not detect the small stealth ship that watched them from the shadow of Pluto. On board, Commander Linda Walsh and her team recorded everything they could about the alien vessels. "Look at how they move," she said to her sensor operator, Kyle Baker. "They don't even try to hide. They don't think we're a threat." "That's good," Kyle replied, his eyes never leaving his console. "That's the mistake that will cost them." The stealth ship slipped away unnoticed, carrying valuable information back to Earth. Over the next month, more Vorgath ships entered the solar system. They established bases on distant moons and asteroids, preparing for their full invasion. All the while, human stealth ships watched and gathered data. Director Harris met daily with Dr. Johnson and a team of the world's best scientists and engineers. They worked around the clock, using the information from the stealth ships to develop new weapons and defenses. "We need to capture one of their ships," Dr. Johnson said during one meeting. "The readings from a distance aren't enough. We need to study their technology up close." "That's a suicide mission," General Powell objected. "Maybe not," said Colonel Frank Martinez, a military engineer. "Our stealth technology is working. They don't know we're watching them. If we can isolate one of their smaller scout ships." The plan was dangerous but necessary. A team of elite soldiers trained for weeks, studying everything known about Vorgath technology and biology from the limited data available. The mission launched 60 days after the destruction of the Horizon. A modified stealth ship carrying 20 soldiers approached a lone Vorgath scout vessel near Neptune. "Remember," Commander Walsh told her team as they prepared to board, "we need prisoners, and we need the ship intact. But if it comes down to your life or theirs, you kill them. They showed no mercy to our people. We owe them nothing." The boarding was quick and violent. 5 human soldiers died in the initial assault. The Vorgath crew, surprised by the attack, fought fiercely but were overwhelmed. 3 were captured alive. "We've got it," Commander Walsh reported back to Earth. "The ship is damaged but intact. 3 prisoners secured. We're bringing them home." The captured Vorgath ship was housed in a secure facility beneath the lunar surface. Scientists and engineers swarmed over it, learning its secrets. The prisoners were kept in special containment cells, studied by teams of xenobiologists and linguists. Dr. Johnson barely slept for days as he examined the alien power systems. "It's just as I thought," he told Director Harris. "Their technology has a fundamental flaw. Their power cores generate that unique radiation signature because they're incredibly efficient, but unstable. If we can create a weapon that emits the right counter-frequency, we can shut down their ships," Director Harris finished. "Not just shut them down. Overload them. Destroy them." In the containment facility, the linguists made a breakthrough. They could now communicate with the Vorgath prisoners. What they learned chilled everyone who read the reports. "They're part of an empire," General Powell explained to the Defense Council. "They've conquered dozens of worlds. They consider other species as resources to be harvested or destroyed. To them, we're just cattle." "How many ships in their main invasion fleet?" Director Harris asked. "Over 500, according to our prisoners," General Powell replied. "They'll be here within 6 months." The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. 500 ships against Earth's small fleet of space vessels. The odds seemed impossible. Then Dr. Johnson spoke up. 6 months is enough time. We can be ready." On screens across Earth, the faces of the 12 murdered crew members of the Horizon were displayed. Their names became a rallying cry. Their sacrifice, the spark that united humanity like never before. The Vorgath had slaughtered 12 humans. They thought it would break humanity's spirit. Instead, it had ignited a fire that would soon burn across the stars. 6 months passed quickly as Earth prepared for war. Old factory buildings that had stood empty for years now worked day and night. Every available resource went toward building ships and weapons. Former enemies became allies. Nations that once pointed missiles at each other now shared technology and soldiers. Dr. Eric Johnson barely left his lab on the moon. He worked with Colonel Frank Martinez and a team of engineers to turn his theories into weapons. The captured Vorgath ship provided answers to questions they hadn't even known to ask. The power core is the key, Dr. Johnson explained during a progress meeting with Director Harris and General Powell. He pointed to a glowing blue cylinder on the display. It runs their entire ship. Weapons, shields, life support, everything. And you can disable it? Asked Director Harris. Better than that, Dr. Johnson said. We can make it overload. The radiation signature it puts out is both its strength and its weakness. If we hit it with the right counter frequency, it becomes unstable. Colonel Martinez stepped forward. We call it the sunburst weapon. It sends out a targeted pulse that only affects Vorgath power systems. To everything else, it's harmless. General Powell nodded with approval. How many can we build? In time? We've simplified the design, Colonel Martinez said. Every ship in our fleet can carry at least 2. The larger vessels can carry dozens. What about their weapons? Director Harris asked. The Horizon was destroyed in seconds. We've studied their weapon systems, Dr. Johnson said. We can't match their firepower yet, but we've developed shields based on their own technology. They won't break through as easily next time. The meeting continued with updates from other departments. Based on information from the captured Vorgath, they now understood more about how the aliens thought and fought. The Vorgath were used to easy victories. They had conquered many worlds without serious resistance. They were confident, but that made them predictable. Major Olivia Wright, the top military strategist, presented her battle plan. We can't win in a direct fight. There are too many of them, so we don't fight fair. She showed a map of the solar system with small dots representing human ships hidden throughout. We hide. We wait. We hit them where they don't expect us. Their sensors can't detect our stealth ships. We use that advantage. The plan was risky. It required perfect timing and coordination, but it was their best chance. As the meeting ended, Director Harris asked the question everyone was thinking. Will it be enough? Nobody answered. Nobody knew. In training facilities across Earth and the Moon, soldiers prepared for space combat. They practiced in simulators based on what they'd learned from the captured ship. They studied Vorgath biology, finding weak points in the alien bodies. Every soldier knew the faces of the 12 Horizon crew members. Their deaths were a constant reminder of what they were fighting for. On a view screen in the main lunar base, a timer counted down to the expected arrival of the Vorgath invasion fleet. The numbers ticked relentlessly toward 0. Dr. Johnson worked until he could barely stand. His team refined the sunburst weapon, making it more powerful, more focused. They installed it on every ship in Earth's growing fleet. Do you think it will work? Asked his assistant, Beth Anderson, as they tested a new version. It has to, Dr. Johnson replied simply. The stealth ships watching the outer solar system reported more Vorgath ships arriving daily. They gathered in formation, preparing for their push toward Earth. Scout ships moved ahead, mapping the system, looking for resistance but finding none. The Vorgath commander, Supreme Leader Vox, felt only contempt for the humans. His people had conquered many worlds and none had put up meaningful resistance. These humans would be the same. They were primitive, weak. His fleet had over 500 warships. Earth had nothing that could stand against such power. 3 weeks before the Vorgath planned to begin their final advance, Major Wright called an emergency meeting. They've changed their timetable, she announced. They're coming now. The room erupted in voices asking questions all at once. Major Wright held up her hand for silence. Our stealth ships report the fleet is moving. All 500 ships, they're heading for Earth now. Director Harris took a deep breath. How long do we have? At their current speed, 5 days. The room fell silent. They weren't ready. The fleet was only at 70% of planned strength. Some weapons were still being tested. Training was incomplete. "We go with what we have," General Powell said firmly. "Send the order. All ships to their positions. This is not a drill." Across the solar system, human ships moved silently to their hiding places. Some concealed themselves in the rings of Saturn. Others hid behind asteroids or moons. The largest stayed in the shadow of Earth's moon, ready to defend their home world as a last resort. Every captain received the same orders: stay hidden, wait for the signal, strike together. The countdown clock was reset. 5 days, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Vorgath fleet moved through the solar system unchallenged. Supreme Leader Vox watched with satisfaction as they passed Neptune, then Uranus. No resistance. Just as he expected. "These humans are even weaker than we thought," he told his officers. "They don't even try to fight." His second-in-command, sub-leader, Krell, was more cautious. "The scouts report no sightings of human ships. It's strange. They're hiding on their planet, trembling in fear," Vox said with certainty. "Soon they will surrender and serve the Vorgath Empire." As the fleet approached the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Vox ordered them to spread out. The rocks and debris could damage the ships if they stayed too close together. Across the fleet, ships moved into a looser formation. They passed, slowly through the asteroid belt, careful to avoid collisions. Hidden among the asteroids, Captain Dan Lewis of the Earth ship Defiant watched the alien vessels draw near. His hand hovered over the signal button. He waited as the Vorgath ships came closer, completely unaware of the trap they were entering. "For the horizon," he whispered as the lead Vorgath ships passed his position. He pressed the button. Throughout the asteroid belt, human ships powered up their sunburst weapons. The signal spread across the solar system in an instant. The trap was sprung. It was time for humanity to show the Vorgath exactly what they had awakened. The human ships fired their sunburst weapons all at once. Bright pulses of energy shot across space, hitting the Vorgath ships throughout the asteroid belt. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then ship after ship began to slow as their power cores reacted to the targeted radiation. On the bridge of his flagship, Supreme Leader Vox watched in confusion as warning lights flashed across his command console. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Power fluctuations across the fleet," reported an officer. "Multiple ships reporting core instability." "Impossible," Vox said. "Where is the attack coming from?" Before anyone could answer, a Vorgath ship nearby exploded in a burst of blue light. Then another. And another. "Enemy ships detected," shouted the sensor operator. They were hiding in the asteroids. Vox slammed his fist on his command chair. "Return fire. Destroy them." The Vorgath fleet tried to respond, but many ships were struggling as their power cores became unstable. Those that could still fight fired their weapons into the asteroid field, destroying rocks, but hitting few human ships. The small, fast Earth vessels darted between asteroids, firing sunburst weapons and then quickly changing position. Captain Dan Lewis watched from the Defiant as 3 more Vorgath ships exploded. "Continue firing," he ordered. "Don't stay in one place." His ship raced behind a large asteroid as energy blasts from a Vorgath cruiser passed by. The Defiant emerged on the other side and fired again, hitting the cruiser directly. The alien ship's lights flickered and went dark as its power core shut down. Across the solar system, the battle unfolded according to Major Wright's plan. As the Vorgath ships at the front of the fleet dealt with the ambush in the asteroid belt, they slowed their advance. This caused the ships behind them to bunch up, creating confusion in their formation. Hidden ships near Jupiter's moons sprang into action, attacking the rear of the Vorgath fleet. Caught between 2 attack forces, the alien ships struggled to organize a defense. In the Lunar Command Center, Director Harris and General Powell watched the battle unfold on large screens. Data streamed in from across the solar system. The sunburst. "Weapons are working," General Powell said, her voice tight with tension, "but they're still fighting back." "How many ships have we lost?" Director Harris asked. 17 confirmed destroyed, 29 damaged. It was a steep price, but the Vorgath losses were higher. Nearly 50 of their ships had been disabled or destroyed in the first hour of battle. Supreme Leader Vox raged as reports of losses came in from all directions. How had these primitive humans hidden their ships? How were they targeting his fleet's power cores with such precision? "Pull back," he ordered finally. "Regroup at Mars orbit." The Vorgath ships tried to withdraw in order, but the human vessels pursued them relentlessly. Small, nimble Earth ships darted between the larger alien vessels, firing sunburst weapons at point-blank range before speeding away. The battle continued for 2 days. The Vorgath fleet, once over 500 strong, was reduced to less than 300 operational ships as they reached Mars. Supreme Leader Vox was stunned. No species had ever inflicted such damage on a Vorgath invasion force. "These humans," he said quietly to Subleader Krell, "they are not like the others we have conquered." "No," Krell agreed. "They are more dangerous." Vox made a new plan. He would take his remaining ships directly to Earth. If he could destroy their major cities quickly, the humans would surrender despite their unexpected resistance. As the Vorgath fleet approached Earth, they encountered the final line of human defense. The largest Earth ships, led by Admiral John Baker on the flagship USV Avenger, moved out from behind the moon. "This is Admiral Baker of Earth's defense fleet," he broadcast on all frequencies. "You killed our people. You threatened our world. This ends today." The Avenger was massive compared to the other human ships. It carried dozens of sunburst weapons and new experimental shields based on Vorgath technology. It led a formation of 30 similar vessels, the best Earth could build in the months since the horizon was destroyed. Supreme Leader Vox laughed at the small fleet facing his still powerful armada. "Destroy them all," he ordered. The two fleets clashed in Earth orbit. Energy weapons lit up space as ships from both sides were hit. Human vessels exploded, their crews giving their lives to protect their home. Vorgath ships fell silent as sunburst weapons found their targets. On the Avenger, Admiral Baker held onto his command chair as the ship shook from a direct hit. "Shields at 30%, reported his tactical officer. "Keep firing," Baker ordered. "Target their command ship." The Avenger moved forward, taking hit after hit but still fighting. Its sunburst weapons fired constantly, disabling Vorgath ship after Vorgath ship. In the Lunar Command Center, Director Harris watched the battle with his heart in his throat. The human fleet was fighting bravely, but they were outnumbered. The defense of Earth had cost them dearly. "We've identified their command ship," General Powell said suddenly. "The Avenger is moving to engage." They watched as the largest human ship turned toward a massive Vorgath vessel at the center of their formation. Both ships fired at each other repeatedly. The Avenger's shields failed under the barrage, but it kept moving forward. Its hull blackened from energy hits, sections of the ship breaking apart, but still it fought. "They're on a collision course," someone in the command center said in horror. Admiral Baker knew his ship was dying. Half his crew was dead or injured. The Avenger would not survive much longer. "Set course directly for their command ship," he told his navigator. "Full speed." "Sir," the navigator said, understanding what that meant. "Do it," Baker said firmly. "For the horizon." The Avenger accelerated toward the Vorgath command ship. Supreme Leader Vox watched in disbelief as the human vessel, trailing debris and fire, aimed straight for his ship. "Destroy it," he screamed. His gunners fired everything they had, tearing huge chunks from the Avenger, but it was too late to stop its momentum. In his final moments, Admiral Baker sent one last message to Earth. "Remember who we are." The Avenger crashed into the Vorgath command ship at full speed. Both vessels exploded in a blast that temporarily outshone the sun itself. When the light faded, the remains of the Vorgath fleet was in disarray. With their leader dead and their forces decimated, they began to retreat. Across Earth, people watched the battle on their screens. They cheered as the alien ships pulled back, running from the world they had come to conquer. Humanity had stood against the Vorgath and won. But the war was not over yet. 1 month after the battle for Earth, the remains of the Vorgath fleet had retreated beyond Neptune. Earth counted its losses. 104 ships destroyed, over 8,000 soldiers and crew dead. But they had won. The Vorgath invasion had failed. In the main chamber of the United Earth Defense Council, Director Harris called the meeting to order. The room was quieter than usual. Empty seats marked where leaders had died during the battle. "We've won the first round," Director Harris said, "but the war isn't over." Dr. Eric Johnson stood and walked to the front of the room. Despite weeks of non-stop work, he looked energized. "We found something in the wreckage of their command ship," he said. "The location of the Vorgath homeworld." The room filled with murmurs. General Powell leaned forward. "How far?" "About 20 light years," Dr. Johnson replied. "With the drive systems we've adapted from their technology, we could reach it in 4 months." "What are you suggesting?" Director Harris asked, though he already knew the answer. "We take the fight to them," Dr. Johnson said simply, "before they come back with an even bigger fleet." The debate lasted for days. Some argued for focusing on Earth's defenses. Others insisted that only by striking at the heart of the Vorgath Empire could they ensure humanity's safety. In the end, Director Harris made the decision. "We will send a fleet to the Vorgath homeworld, not to destroy them, but to make sure they never threaten us again." The mission was given to Captain Laura Taylor, who had survived the battle in the asteroid belt. Her ship, the USV Defender, would lead a fleet of 30 vessels, the best Earth could spare. "Your mission is clear," Director Harris told her. "Show them what happens when they attack humanity. Make them understand that coming here again would be their end." Captain Taylor nodded. "We won't fail." As the fleet prepared to depart, Dr. Johnson brought Captain Taylor a small device. "This is something new," he explained. "We call it the blackout virus. It targets their technology specifically. Once deployed, it will spread through their systems, disabling their weapons and ships." "Will it kill them?" Captain Taylor asked. "No," Dr. Johnson replied. "But it will make them defenseless. That's better than slaughtering them, don't you think?" Captain Taylor looked at the small device that could bring an empire to its knees. "Yes," she said finally. "That's better." The journey to the Vorgath homeworld took 3 months and 18 days. When they arrived, they found the Vorgath preparing. Hundreds of ships orbited their planet, a new invasion fleet nearly twice the size of the first. "They're planning to come back," Captain Taylor told her crew as they observed from the edge of the system. "They didn't learn their lesson." She gave the order to deploy the stealth probes they had brought. For 3 days, the probes mapped the Vorgath defenses and communication systems. The human fleet remained hidden, using the technology they had developed during the war. "Their network is even more connected than we thought," reported the science officer Ben Wright. "Every ship, every weapon, every defense system, all linked to a central control." Captain Taylor smiled. "Perfect." The human fleet moved closer, still undetected. Captain Taylor held the device Dr. Johnson had given her. One press would deploy the blackout virus into the Vorgath network. "Send them a message first," she told her communications officer. "Show them who we are." On every screen across the Vorgath homeworld and fleet, the same images appeared: the USV Horizon, the 12 crew members who had been killed, Captain Winters, extending his hand in peace before being struck down. In the Vorgath command center, the new Supreme Leader Zux watched in shock as these images played. How had humans breached their network? How had they reached the Vorgath homeworld undetected? Before he could order a response, a new image appeared: the destruction of the Vorgath invasion fleet, the explosion of the previous Supreme Leader's ship, the retreat of the surviving vessels. Then a human appeared on the screen. Captain Laura Taylor looked directly at the camera. "I am Captain Laura Taylor of Earth. You came to our home. You killed our people who offered you peace. You threatened our world. We defeated you." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We could destroy you now. We could do to your world what you planned to do to ours, but we are not like you." Captain Taylor held up the device so they could see it. "This will disable your technology, your weapons, your ships, not forever, but long enough for you to understand." She pressed the button. Across the Vorgath homeworld, systems began to fail. Ships lost power. Weapons went offline. The mighty Vorgath military, which had conquered dozens of worlds, suddenly found itself helpless. "We will leave your people unharmed," Captain Taylor continued. "But know this, if you ever threaten Earth again, what we have done today will seem merciful compared to what will come next." The message ended. On the Vorgath homeworld, panic spread as systems failed one by one. Their technology, the source of their power and pride, betrayed them as the virus spread. Supreme Leader Zux watched his empire crumble around him. The humans had beaten them twice, not through superior numbers or strength, but through intelligence and determination. They had turned the Vorgath's own technology against them. "Send a message," he ordered. "Tell them we surrender." The human fleet remained in orbit for 1 week to ensure the virus had spread completely. They watched as the mighty Vorgath war fleet drifted powerless. Millions of Vorgath soldiers and crew were stranded, their weapons useless. As they prepared to return to Earth, Captain Taylor received a final message from the Vorgath leaders. They agreed to withdraw from all conquered territories. They agreed to never again threaten Earth or its colonies. They agreed to pay for what they had done. The journey home was quiet. They had achieved victory without the wholesale slaughter of the Vorgath people. Yet the memory of the 12 who died on the horizon remained. When the fleet returned to Earth, they were welcomed as heroes. The war was over. Humanity had faced its first contact with alien life and survived. More than survived, they had shown that despite their relative youth among the stars, humans were not to be underestimated. On the 1-year anniversary of the destruction of the horizon, a memorial was unveiled. It showed 12 figures standing tall, looking up at the stars. At the base, words were carved in stone. They were 12. "We are humanity." In the years that followed, other alien civilizations made contact with Earth. They came in peace, having heard what happened to the once mighty Vorgath. The humans who had defeated an empire were not enemies anyone wished to make. The 12 who died were never forgotten. Their sacrifice had changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever.